Good morning, dear students. In the morning and evening classes, third stage or third class in the Department of Translation, College of Arts, Al-Mustansi University. This lecture focuses on the very important play by a very important English writer and dramatist and a poet. His name is William Shakespeare. This lecture is an introduction to the play itself and to the dramatist and to the age in which it was written. Also, it can be considered a course plan for you, dear student, because I include in it some of the central themes. We are to discuss them one by one. Also, some very, very important information about the dramatist himself, William Shakespeare, about the play itself, some characters, some passages that I see or consider very important for you to know, and their answers also, not only some passages or some lines, but the how to explain them, and this prepares you for the monthly and final and daily, let's say, quizzes and exams. Please follow me, my dear student, and be very attentive. And after listening to the lecture, if you have any questions or inquiries, do not hesitate to come to me in the department to ask me. Write down any notes you deem necessary for you to memorize, to understand, and to grasp the ideas and the materials I'm going to indicate to you. We begin first with indicating some pictures or displaying some pictures of the major characters. The central character, of course, this is he is Julius Caesar, and later on we should light on the meaning of his name, his actions in the play, the difference between the historical Caesar and the dramatic Caesar, and so on. This is Crassus. Again, I'm going to talk briefly about him because he's an off-stage character mentioned only one or two times. Let's say from the historical perspective, he's very important because he's a member in the first triumvirate established by Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey, but in the play he is not referred to. Let's say also this is a Crassus, the student. This is a Caesar. Again, he's the central character. Look at him. He's a typically Roman military leader, and he's the central character in the play, even after his death, because he was assassinated in the third act, which is the climax of the and the act of his assassination is the climax of the play, but his soul remains. He is influential. He is as influential in the first 2 or 3 acts as he is influential in the 4th and 5th act. Also, this is another picture by him. Look at, and here we have the Capitol in the Rome. Again, let's say if you look at him, apparently he is a very great military leader. Look at the statue, how huge it is. Also, this is Crassus again, and this is Pompey, the third member in the triumvirate, first triumvirate. All these three characters are very influential. All of them are noble Roman. All of them are senators. Also here we have Pompey. Dear student, the Romans, it seems, were fond of making statues and so on. We move from, let's say, displaying of these pictures to saying something about, as we say, Julius Caesar, third class, translation department. Below are the central themes and definitions in relation to William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Central themes, dear student. The first one is history. As the play deals with historical characters, all of them are historical characters, like Brutus, Cassius. Of course, they are pronounced in two ways, Cassius and Cassius. Cicerio, or in Arabic, Cicerone, as we say. Julius Caesar, Ligaris, for example, Casca, all of them, in fact, are historical characters, and they are mentioned in historical books. That is why this play can be dealt with or examined from a historical perspective to see the degree of correspondence between what is written in historical documents and what is written in the play itself, how those characters are represented. Was Shakespeare true to history in portraying them, in depicting them? Did he observe, for example, historical details concerning their, for example, lives, the background information about their families? We'll see and we'll discuss this later on. The second point, dear student, you have to know, concerning history, you have to know the main differences between the historical Caesar as presented in historical books, especially in Plutarch's, and the dramatic Caesar. Are there differences or not? Yes, there are many differences, as we are to examine and see later on. The second central theme in the play is a tragedy. Julius Caesar is a tragic play. And it is historical tragedy, and it is a political tragedy. So essentially, what do you mean by tragedy? Who is the tragic hero? What are the elements of tragedy? In order to consider a play a good tragedy, okay, a good tragedy, what does it have? Okay, what should it have in order to be put, let's say, in the or listed among the great tragedies? William Shakespeare wrote many tragedies. Again, we are to give some examples of them, like, for example, Hamlet, King Lear, Macbeth, for example, and many other tragedies. Julius Caesar is among these plays. So, in what way Caesar is a tragic hero? In what way Brutus is a tragic hero? Who are the protagonists? Who are the antagonists? All these details, of course, you are to have them and discuss them with me in the class. The third point you have to know is violence. Do we have violence in this play? Surely, as it is a tragedy, let's say, as it is tragedy, violence is there in all tragedies. Violence is there in all tragedies. Is violence of only one type? No, there are many types of violence. There, for example, there is physical violence, as we have central characters, for example, dies. It is a must, and it is one of the requirements of Shakespearean tragedy is that the death of the central character, and not only him, many other characters die with him. So we have verbal violence, as we are to, let's say, to know and examine in the first scene, first act, when, for example, dealing with the commoners or dealing with the mob by Flavius and Marlos. Another example of violence, physical, of course, is in the after immediately after the assassination of Caesar, when Cinna the poet was wrongly and mistakenly killed by the mob. We have self-directed violence, of course. I do not want to, let's say everything in this introductory lecture, but what I want you to know is that we have many examples of violence in the play, and we are to discuss them one by one. The third, my dear student, is supernatural elements. Supernatural elements. Now, Shakespeare, it seems, was fond of presenting supernatural elements in his plays, tragic plays specifically. We have witches, for example. We have Tempest. We have, let's say, heavenly warnings from heaven sent to them. We have heaven rains blood instead of rain. We have so many supernatural elements, unbelievable, incredible, let's say, occurrences or happenings. Like, for example, there is no heart in the goat. Ghost, for example, some Hamlet, and even we have the ghost of Caesar here. So what are these supernatural elements? What dramatic purposes serve, let's say, these elements serve? Again, these elements are to be the focus and of our discussion later on, because these elements are scattered throughout from the first scene till the first act till the last act. We have all sorts of supernatural elements, natural and, let's say, earthly. Another important point, it is number 5, which is the image of a woman. Unfortunately, as Shakespeare's tragedies contain few women, and they are secondary characters all the time, because usually, let's say, the tragic hero needs a sister or daughters or wife and so on. So we have essentially only 2 female characters in this play. The first one is California, the wife of Caesar. The second one is Portia, the wife of Protus. Although secondary, these 2 women are very important in revealing or exposing the mindset of the Elizabethan, their viewpoint of women, the position of women in general in society, what kind of society Shakespeare lived in, and so on. So it is very important. Another theme in Julius Caesar is animal imagery. Animal imagery. Now, what do you mean by animal imagery? Usually, here we have animal imagery. We have so many types of animals. Cats, for example, lions, deers, let's say, owls, dogs. So many types of animals, and collectively these animals are used to somehow comment on the conflict, let's say, explain the characters, the qualities of a character. For example, tell us something about the future, foreshadowing, preparing us for the future. So again, animal imagery is not used randomly, it's not presented in vacuum, but there are certain dramatic purposes behind the use of animals. What else, dear student, concerning the central themes in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar? The Roman people, or the commoners, or the what we call plebeians. All these names are the same. We are dealing with the ordinary people in Rome. Why they are important? Why they are important? We explain what they are doing in the play. Again, we explain everything concerning the Roman people. In what way they are presented? Are they, let's say, does Shakespeare represent them in positive way, in negative way, in favorable way, disfavorable way? In what light they are presented? Again, some of the central themes like violence, let's say, are associated with the Roman people. Roman people or commoners actually appear in a few scenes. For example, in the first scene, they are among the dominant characters besides Flavius and Marlos. In the second scene, they are referred to by Casca when he was reporting to Cassius and Protus what the mob were doing during the crowning of Caesar, or the supposed crowning of Caesar. And again, we have them immediately after the assassination of Caesar and the killing of innocent Cinna the poet. So in spite of their short appearance, the Roman people do suggest something about the general viewpoint of the ordinary people in Shakespeare's time, and actually, let's say, of course, giving an idea about Roman people, and behind them, of course, English people, because Caesar usually somehow are representing English people and English politics, English society, while talking about Roman or other nationalities, let's say, nationalities and people. Of course, all the characters are important, but some of them are more important than others. The central characters you are to focus on and you are to pay attention to are Caesar, Cassius, Protus, Casca, Antony, and of course California and Portia. What else, my dear student? What else, my dear student? Let's say, what else, my student, concerning the themes? We have number 9, a few Protus mistakes in the conspiracy. It is very important, of course. The conspiracy is planned for by Protus and Cassius. And Cassius suggests 3 very, very significant and important suggestions or points. However, unfortunately, Protus, let's say, declines them, turns them down, saying that, let's say, they are better rejected by the conspirators. And later on, of course, events prove that Cassius was right in this suggestion, and that if Protus observed them and observes them and follows them, let's say, the course of the conspiracy and the outcome of the conspiracy might have taken another direction. What else, dear student? We have comparison of Protus and Antony's speech. Comparisons are very important, and it is one of the central strategies used by Cassius himself when attempting to convince Protus to join the conspiracy. And comparison again is important to know the differences between Protus and Antony, especially in the speeches. Apparently, Protus was successful in, let's say, in convincing the ordinary people, the Roman, of the validity of the necessity of killing Caesar. However, Antony, later on, because of his style in talking to people, because of the strategies he uses in his speech and oration, was more successful than Protus in, let's say, winning the approval and winning the support of common people to his side. The last point, dear student, in our in the central themes or in this guide for you is the offstage characters, especially Pompey. Pompey is a stage character in the first scene because he was already dead before the beginning of the events. Okay, the play opens and Flavius or Marlos telling us that Pompey died during the civil war between his troops and the troops of Caesar. Who is the other offstage character? Caesar himself was an offstage character in the 4th and 5th act because physically he's not there, but he's referred to many times by several characters. So he is or can be considered an offstage character. Now, some information about Shakespeare himself when he was born. Pay attention, dear student, to anything that is shadowed, let's say, in the yellow color. For example, here. Okay, it is the date of the birth of Shakespeare. Here, how many tragedies and comedies and histories Shakespeare was, wrote. Also, some information about the problems play, as we say, those plays that are neither tragedies nor comedies, but something in between. They combine elements, let's say, from tragedy and from comedy. Examples of this, that ends also, that ends well, measure for measure, Troilus and Cressida, and so on. We have some, let's say, information that are very important let's say, I'm going to ask you to answer them in the short questions. For example, what was the first play by Shakespeare? The last play by Shakespeare? Most produced play by Shakespeare? How many sonnets Shakespeare wrote? How many words Shakespeare invented? Here, for example, 420 words. And again, some his plays also contain the first recorded usage of about 1,700 words. Look at. So he was really, let's say, brilliant and inventive, as we say. He invents words, making adjectives verbs, making verbs adjectives, for example, or nouns, and so on. Among them is bedroom, for example, bump, dawn, excitement, leapfrog, and others. What else, dear student? Shakespeare, let's say, put a curse on his grave. So if I ask you, what did Shakespeare put on his grave? You say a curse. And here we have good friend for Jesus' sake for beer. To dig, of course, in the form of poetic form, يعني شعر. To dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones. Later on, I elaborate on this, why he put this curse, because it is related to a fact about the Elizabethan funerals and burials of the dead. What else, dear student? What is the primary source of Julius Caesar? Now, on what did Shakespeare depend in writing Julius Caesar? It is the Plutarch's life of Caesar. Plutarch is a writer, a poet, and a historian, and he wrote about the lives of the emperors and the kings, Roman and Greek. So Plutarch was a biographer and historian who wrote the biographies of notable people, including the Roman Emperor Julius Caesar. Something about his Shakespeare comedies, histories, and tragedies, which is, let's say, referred to and compiled in what is known as the first volume. Again, we have in which year, for example, the first triumvirate was formed or established. It was in 60 BC, before the birth of Christ. Then, dear student, we have Aristotle's famous definition of a tragedy. First of all, what do you mean by tragedy? It is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete. I'm not going to dwell, let's say, long on this, because there is a PowerPoint that explains this very much, let's say, explains this in full, and I'm going to refer to it and discuss it with you. We have, following this definition, begins to the six constitutive components of a tragedy. So how many components, how many elements, how many aspects are there in tragedy? They are 6. You have to know them. You have to know them. For example, we have spectacle, song and action, thought and character, and we have, let's say, later on, the plot. The plot, it is defined as the soul of a tragedy. The soul of a tragedy. It is the blood and soul of a tragedy, according to, let's say, Aristotle. And we have many types of plot. However, let's say, in order not to burden you with so many details, I'm going just to define what is a plot. Okay, the types of a plot I'm going to discuss with you orally. I'm going to stop here, dear student, and there will be another lecture in which I explain what do you mean by tragic hero, okay? What do you mean by character? What do you mean by, what are the types of character? What do you mean by plot, discovery, for example, common features of Shakespearean tragedy, the 9 elements of a Shakespearean tragedy. What are the 9 elements of Shakespearean tragedy? We have, for example, the tragic hero, good versus evil, hamartia, tragic ways, conflict. How many types of conflict? Essentially, we have 2, catharsis, supernatural elements, absence of poetic justice, comic relief, and then we have definitions of a number of poems, like a climax, soliloquy. In another lecture, I'm going to explain them to you. Thank you very much, dear student. Hope that you like, and you, let's say, this lecture was beneficial to you and useful for you, and explanatory, okay, telling you essential facts about the play and about Shakespeare. Thank you very much.